we're starting the first book for this vlog, Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I have been so excited for this since before she even announced it, because when I read Check and Mate, which is a chess romance, it kind of gave sports romance vibes, even though I don't think chess is technically a sport, but it kind of felt like one. And I remember thinking to myself, I wish Ali Hazelwood would write a sports romance because I know that it would eat. And she answered my prayers. Also, swimming, well, she's a diver and he's a swimmer, but I was on the swim team and a lifeguard, so anything pool related I just love. She literally wrote this for me personally. I am so excited. I think it's gonna be so good. Also, we need to take a moment for this copy. This is not even a special edition. This is just the normal copy that you get when you buy the book. Like, are we actually joking? Look at the art inside. It has like water droplets on it. Stunning, literally stunning. I am so excited. I cannot wait to read this. I'm starting it immediately. Okay, I'm not far into this at all. I think I'm like 50 pages in, but I don't know if it's just because I haven't read an Ali Hazelwood in a while or her writing is just getting better, but I feel like this is flowing so nicely. You know how sometimes when you read a book it just feels like, okay, we're doing this, now we're doing this, now we're doing this, and it's sort of blocky. In this, I feel like all the scenes are just blending together really seamlessly, and it kind of feels like you're just going along with her days, even though there's obviously time in between. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but everything is just flowing together really nicely, and I just really like the way it's written in general. I mean, I like all of Ali Hazelwood's books, but I just like this one in particular is really well written and is really flowing nicely. Okay, I'm a lot farther into it now, but I realized I never actually said what it's even about. So basically it's set at Stanford and it follows Scarlett, who's the main character. She's on the diving team, and Lucas, the love interest, is on the swim team. And basically they both find out that they are into BDSM. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube, but they're both into like a 50 Shades vibe. But he's an Olympian, so he can't really just go on Tinder and like make a profile. So when they find out that they are both into these things, they end up entering this friends with benefit type relationship so that they can explore that with each other. And it's actually her teammate's ex, but it's not love triangle-y because she breaks up with him and then she knows about each of them, so she's the one that's like matchmaking them. So it's not like a love triangle or anything, but that does add like a little more tea to the story. So that's like the basic gist. We're also really getting into her as a character and like her character development. She's a huge perfectionist. She has this trauma from her dad, and this book is long. I think it's like over 400 pages. Yeah, it's like 450 pages, so it is long, but I like that because I like that we're really getting into like her and what's going on, and I feel like everything is being tied together well. There also is the STEM aspect a little bit, not as much as like her first couple books, but Scarlett and Lucas are both pre-med and they end up working on this project together, so there's that aspect. It's balancing like her character development, her diving, the sports part of it with the academics part of it, with like their relationship. There's a lot going on, but in a good way, and I really like her, and so I really like reading about her life and like everything that's going on. And also I will report back when I'm finished. But as of right now, there hasn't been too much smut, but the smut that's in here isn't too crazy. The way they were talking in the beginning, I was like, this is literally Christian Grey 2.0. Like, he's gonna have a red room. It's gonna be insane. But it really hasn't been so far. So I think like if you hear that and you're scared, it hasn't been like too bad. Definitely like a little bit more intense than your regular rom-com, but like not anything too crazy. At least so far. If that changes, I will let you know. Also, side note, I love the micro trope when the MMC can speak another language, and so he like has a nickname for her in that language and he's like speaking in that language. It's gonna do it for me every single time. Another thing I forgot to mention but that I'm really enjoying is she's recovering from an injury. She got injured the season before this and she's all healed physically, but now she has a mental block and she's not able to do one of the dives that you have to do in every competition, and so it's like pre-season gearing up for the actual season, and she's trying to overcome this mental block, and I just think that's really interesting. I'm not an athlete like that, so it's not anything I've ever had to deal with personally, but I just think it's a really interesting point of view and like conflict for her to have. I'm enjoying reading that part of the storyline. Yes, it's the next day and I'm wearing the same shirt, but I finished Deep End. I'm obsessed. Like, I loved this so much. I read pretty much all of it in one sitting. I had like 2 chapters left this morning. I could not get enough. Could not get enough. I think I was saying yesterday that I really liked her and her character development, all of her storylines a lot. When I tell you I'm obsessed with this man, I am obsessed with this man. If you love like the quiet sort of, not necessarily shy, but like, I don't know how to describe it, like a little bit more reserved person, like he's down bad for her, but it's like she doesn't see it. Like, how do you not see it? Like, he wants you so bad, like he's in love with you. And just sweet like acts of service, just down bad man. Lucas is that man. Like, some of his quotes in this book had me actually feral. Out of context, this is like not a spoiler, but I asked for you. I genuinely had to put the book down and take a lap and do some deep breaths. I have never been so gagged. I literally could not get over it. I also feel like I mentioned this, but the like BDSM and like that part of the story wasn't as crazy as I thought it was gonna be from the way they were talking about it in the beginning. There definitely is smut in this, and it's definitely smuttier and more intense than your average rom-com, but it wasn't anything too crazy in my opinion. I was expecting like crazy shit. He's just kind of like bossy, and there's like some other stuff. So I've been seeing discourse, like some people think it's too smutty, some people think it's like not kinky enough. For me personally, I enjoyed the level it was at. I don't know, didn't bother me one way or the other. I'm usually not a huge smut person, to be honest. Like I don't normally care about that really. If there's like a few scenes, whatever, but any more than that, I usually am like skimming it if I'm being real. But this, I was enjoying it in this. I really liked it. I was sweating. I thought it was really well done and hot. Another thing I loved about this is I feel like there wasn't really miscommunication, or at least not really bad miscommunication trope, which I just always appreciate because I'm so sick of the miscommunication trope. There's definitely conflict, but it's not some stupid like, you know, miscommunication trope vibe, which I like. The one thing I didn't like about this book, and why I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 or like a 4.75 and not a full 5 stars, is because I didn't really like the third act conflict. I'm trying to like, I don't know how to describe it without spoiling it, but there's just like dynamics in this book that didn't bother me at all until the end, and then I felt like people were acting out of character, one person in particular, and just the way it played out wasn't my favorite. I kind of could have done without that, and like I knew it was gonna happen, but I was just hoping that it didn't, and it all works out in the end, of course, happily ever after. But I just could have done without that dynamic and like that, I don't know, that aspect of the story I was not obsessed with. But other than that, I was obsessed. So definitely loved this. I think it's my new favorite Ali Hazelwood. I would maybe have to reread Love Theoretically to know for sure, but as of right now, I think this is my favorite because I really was just obsessed with it. I loved it so much. I would recommend, I don't know, the girls are fighting about it. I loved it. I would recommend it so good. I'm literally obsessed with them. I love them so much. I originally wasn't gonna put this book in this video because the other books in this video come out a little bit after this, but then I read it and I loved it so much that I just have to put it in this video so that I can yap about it. Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. This is the third book in the When in Rome series, which is a series I really like. I thought the first one was just okay, but I really liked the second one, and I obviously loved this one. This series follows a set of siblings that live in Rome, Kentucky. It's a small town. It's basically southern Stars Hollow. It has that same vibe, and I just love this town and this world that she's created. And this one follows the eldest daughter, which, okay, I am not an oldest daughter. I'm an only child, but I do feel like I relate to oldest daughter characters because I feel like there's a similarity there, even though I'm not doing stuff because I'm the oldest. I'm doing stuff because I'm the only one. You know what I mean? When it comes to like parents. So I do love an oldest daughter character, even though I technically am not one. I guess technically I am one. Literally doesn't matter at all. And she's a second grade teacher, but she also is a romance author on the down low. She's been writing this romance novel and literally no one knows about it. She hasn't told a soul. And the love interest is her rival. They've been rivals since college and went to college together, and then now they teach at the same elementary school in Rome together. But he got engaged and moved away, so he's been away for a few months, and now he moved back and he ends up being her next door neighbor. But he also has a secret author identity because he is a best-selling mystery writer, but he writes under a pen name. So they're both teachers who moonlight as authors, and they're neighbors and rivals. Okay, beach read. So he comes back to town, they're neighbors, not getting along, and then she accidentally emails the principal of their school her romance manuscript, and he's very sort of uptight. So for her to send her erotic romance novel to him is not good. So they sort of team up and he agrees to help her get the manuscript back before the principal can see it. I am obsessed with this book. It had me genuinely giggling and smiling and squealing. The banter, you're joking, the tension, please. I love when an author lets their characters flirt with each other, like actually flirt with each other banter, tease. It's so good. Another thing I liked about this is I didn't feel like they were rivals or enemies for no reason. It's definitely petty. It's not like something really bad happened, but it has accumulated over years and years, and it's not one-sided. Like, she will give him shit, but he'll give her shit right back, which I like, because I think sometimes in an enemies to lovers type romance, it's like one stupid miscommunication they had 10 years ago, and then that's it, and that's the entire basis of why they don't get along. But this is years of pranking each other and messing with each other and going back and forth. So even though it's nothing sinister, the rivalry felt warranted. Also, the invisible string in this book, insane. They are so invisible string coded. They go to the same school, same major, so they have all the same classes. They end up working at the same yogurt shop or something. They just always run into each other. When he moves away, he still feels pulled to her, and while he's away, she finds herself thinking about him. They just have this pull, and the universe always seems to be drawing them together.
All along there was some invisible string tying you to me.
Also, Sarah Adams has done the impossible. I love a blonde man. He's blonde! When I tell you, this man is so fine, so hot. He wears glasses. There's a scene where he comes outside and all he's wearing are black athletic shorts and his glasses. I gotta go. I gotta go. Another thing I appreciated was that their dynamic doesn't completely change after they become friends and start to get flirty and have a relationship. Another thing that I feel like happens a lot in enemies to lovers type romances is that they're enemies and then they do get along and they just completely lose that flirty, bantery dynamic. And I felt like even though it obviously changes, it was still there underneath it all. They still tease each other and bantered a little bit, and it wasn't just a complete personality. Oh, anyway, it wasn't just a complete personality shift. Guys, when I tell you, I was literally obsessed with them from their first interaction. Page 26, I got on Goodreads and said, I'm obsessed with them already. Page 26, like, there was just something about them. I just loved them instantly. Also, another thing I appreciated is that there isn't really a third act breakup. There's definitely a conflict, but it gets resolved pretty quickly and pretty maturely. I feel like they have good communication throughout this entire book, honestly, but I appreciate that the third act breakup wasn't this like big drawn out like crazy thing. It's just something happens, they kind of have to take a second, and then they come back together. It was dealt with realistically, maturely, and just well. I liked how that all played out. If you have to have a third act conflict, I like types like this better. I also was just so emotionally attached to them. I was crying. I'm a crier in general, but to cry over books, especially romance books, I feel like doesn't happen as often. And I was crying, which surprised me because I really wasn't expecting anything from this book. You see her in the earlier books, of course, but she's just not really in them much, so I wasn't drawn to her and I wasn't really expecting to love her so much. I just kind of had like no feelings towards her going into this. So for me to be so attached and crying, also I loved him too. I was very emotionally attached to him as well. I just truly loved every second of this. Easy 5 stars. I could not get enough. Loved them so much. Like genuinely every single page of this I enjoyed. I read it, most of it in one sitting, and I genuinely considered calling out of work to finish it. Like I was reading it and I was probably like 200 pages in and it was my bedtime, which is 10:30, and I was like, actually no, I don't think I was that far. I was like halfway through and I was like, should I call out of work tomorrow to finish this book? And then I was like, that's insane. I can't do that. But that's how into it I was. I did not want to put it down. I wanted to just stay up all night and finish it in one sitting. Love it so much. Probably my new favorite in the series. I did also really like the second one, Practice Makes Perfect, so I'd maybe have to do a reread, but I think this takes the cake as my favorite in that series. Definitely recommend. You also don't have to read this in order or read the other ones to read this. You could just read this by itself. It's so good. The last book we're reading for this vlog, we're reading it on Kindle. Guess my favorite color combo right now. Extremely hard. That is Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. Hannah Bonham Young wrote Out on a Limb, which I read this time last year and really loved. It's what made me realize I actually enjoy the accidental pregnancy trope. And this is her new release. This is actually a companion book to Out on a Limb. It's Win from Out on a Limb. It's her best friend and her husband, which I didn't even realize until today, and I read the first like couple pages and she mentions it. I don't think you have to read them in order because it is a totally separate book, but Out on a Limb was really good if you do want to read it. I did read a little bit of this already actually. I think I'm 25% of the way through and I'm really liking it so far. I feel like Hannah Bonham Young has a knack for making you care about her characters really quickly. Even though I'm not that far in, I already feel emotionally attached to them. And this book is Marriage in Peril, which I don't think I've really read before actually, so a little bit of a new trope for me. So they've been together for 17 years. They met when they were 14, high school sweethearts, got married young, and she's a housewife. I think he comes from money, and then he also is like a tech guy, so they're rich, and she's a housewife. She doesn't have any hobbies, they don't have kids, she doesn't have a career, she doesn't have anything that she feels like is just hers, and she kind of just doesn't feel like a real person, if that makes sense, because she just doesn't have anything that belongs to her. And one thing she does want to do is she puts on this fundraising event for ALS because her mom passed away from ALS like 10 years before this, and the event ends up not going well, and her husband Caleb swoops in and saves the day, which upsets her because she wanted something that was just hers, whether it went well or whether it failed. She wanted it to be just hers. She didn't want him to be involved, and they end up fighting, and it sort of triggers just like all the issues that they've had, especially her issues and not feeling like she has anything for herself or anything at all really besides him. And then he also doesn't understand why she's upset because he was, you know, doing a nice thing. He had good intentions. He doesn't really get why she's so upset. So they end up having this really bad fight. They don't talk for like weeks. They're not doing well. And Sarah, that's the main character, is talking to Wynn, her best friend, and is like, you know, maybe it's just run its course. Like, we got married so young. I don't know what to do. And Wynn says that she is a friend that runs this hiking trip every year, and there's 2 women that run it, and one of them is a relationship therapist, and Wynn and her husband were supposed to go, but they can't. So Wynn says that Sarah and Caleb should take their spot and go on the hiking trip and just take it as an opportunity to work out all of their issues. So they do. The point I'm at right now, they just got to the hiking trip, like literally just pulled into the parking lot, so they haven't actually started any of that yet. And I feel like we also haven't really seen the husband much yet. I mean, we have. There are a little bit of flashbacks. I don't know if I would call it a full past present timeline romance because it is mainly in the present day point of view, but you do get flashbacks to them in high school and when they were younger. So I have seen him a little bit, but I feel like I haven't really seen him in the present day too much. So I'm excited to see more of his personality and how he's feeling about everything. And so far I'm really liking it. I feel like this is just so up my alley. I love a second chance type romance, even though that's not technically what this is. And I love like an outdoorsy vibe, like we're on a trip, we're doing something out of our comfort zone. So I'm really liking it so far, and I think I'm gonna try and just finish this today. I think it'll be a good book to just sit and binge really quickly, so that's the goal. Okay, it's a little bit later. I'm wearing a shirt, I promise. I'm now 50% of the way through Out of the Woods, and I'm still really liking it. We have seen more of Caleb, which I like, but I do feel bad for him. He was basically completely blindsided by her feeling this way. He thought that they were happy and that she was happy and that they had a good life together. So for him to hear that she has been struggling so much and he had no idea, it's just really hard for him to swallow, which I totally get. Honestly, I feel like that's probably not an easy thing to hear after being with someone for 17 years. But one thing I love about this is that you can tell that these people love each other. Like, they, despite everything, despite all of their problems, they have a very deep love for each other, and you can tell that they really want to work it out and that they just really love each other. Why am I tearing up? Guys, I don't know if I'm PMSing, but I genuinely have been tearing up like every 10 pages. I don't know what's going on. Like, I just cannot stop crying. Literally tearing up just talking about it, but it's so sweet. Like, they love each other so much. I gotta go. No, but seriously. This is also a little bit different because as much as I love a tropey romance where it's like a fun plot and they're fake dating or whatever and there's like this convoluted plot, it's really nice to read a romance where they just feel like real people. They feel like a real couple going through real problems and who really care about each other and want to work it out, and it's not like this convoluted tropey thing. It just feels very real to me, and it's really refreshing. And I think people could not like it because of that. I feel like some people will think this is boring because it's not like that, but I like it. I like seeing them just communicating and being with each other and reconnecting and figuring their stuff out. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really rooting for them. Like, I know it's a romance, so like it's gonna have a happily ever after, but I am like really rooting for them. I really want them to work it out because I like them a lot and I think they're really sweet, and you can really tell that they love each other so much. Although, even though I just said it's not super tropey. I do like the hiking aspect of it. I think it's fun. They're out in the woods hiking and camping, and there's like side characters and stuff. So there is other stuff going on that does add like that fun aspect, but in general, it has a pretty like basic plot. There is other stuff to it besides just them and what they're going through, but the focus is definitely them, and as it should be. Okay, it's a few hours later now. Cats are in the same spot, and I finished Out of the Woods. I really loved it. Like I was saying, it just felt very real, and I just cared about them so much, and I really love Hannah Bonham Young's writing style. I just feel like these people are soulmates, and I loved seeing them rekindle their relationship and get through their issues, and it was just so good. I also really liked that there wasn't a third act breakup. There is a third act event, conflict, something does happen in the third act, but it's not a breakup. I like when authors do that and they put in something in the third act to make drama and to make the climax of the story without making it like a silly third act breakup. And I liked where we ended up with the main female character. You really got to see her issues and her dealing with her grief from her mom and her just finding herself again and going back to what she wanted when she was younger before life sort of beat it out of her, and her getting those ambitions back. I just thought every storyline in this honestly was really well done. Like I said, I literally could not stop tearing up. I don't know if I'm just having a hormonal day, but I was just so invested and just I just literally couldn't stop crying. I don't know, I was tearing up literally constantly. I just really felt the emotions with this one. If you're looking for a realistic, not angsty, but emotional sort of second chance romance, but like not really because they never get divorced, something like that, I think you'd really like this. That was the last book for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching this on the day it was posted, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you're having an amazing day, whether you have a significant other or you're like me and your romance books are gonna keep you company. If you want to find me anywhere else, I'll have all my other social medias down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.